Grossi Posse Packer Nation, welcome to another episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help, and I am your host, Tom Grossi, and today, we're going to take a look at the 8 positions that the Packers need help in. Now, originally this list was just going to be 5, but then as I was thinking about it, I was like, oh no, we need this. All right, that's 6. All right, no, we need that too. All right, never mind, we need that. So I've got it down to 8 positions that the Packers should either target in free agency or target in the draft. Now, Mike Daniels recently came out saying that we should get some mean, nasty guys on defense, and I 100% agree. So this list is going to rank from number 8 to number 1, in my opinion, of what we are in most dire need of. And so with that being said, let's just jump right into the list with number 8. Now, this one I originally wasn't going to include, but after this season, we got to talk about it. Number 8 is going to be a backup quarterback. Aaron Rodgers. Hopefully, he is going to be completely and totally healthy for the next 6 years as the Packers win 6 more Super Bowl championships. But as last year has shown and 2013 has shown, we do not have a backup quarterback in any way, shape, or form. Brett Hundley is not the guy that Mike McCarthy promised. That was very evident while we were able to win some games with him against the Bears, against the Browns, against the what was it, the Bucks? Yeah, the Bucks. We had to go into overtime twice against those teams that we should have destroyed. And so that being said, Brett Hundley is not the answer to our problems in any way, shape, or form. Joe Callahan, we haven't seen enough of him, but he looks rusty during preseason. And again, preseason really doesn't mean a whole lot because you look at Brett Hundley a couple of years ago who was lighting it up and was just scoring touchdown after touchdown. And people on this show, on ESPN and everything, were talking about, this was before last season, that Brett Hundley was going to be able to be traded for like a second-round draft pick and we were going to get such value for him. And people were saying to bench Aaron Rodgers when he was doing poorly and to start Brett Hundley. I don't hear any of those people now. And so that being said, you can still keep like Hundley on the team. I don't know what he's going to do for you. He's also just going to eat up some cap space. Not a lot, obviously. But I think, to be honest, we need to bring in a veteran backup quarterback. And hopefully he never has to be utilized. But you take a look at 2 teams in particular, and they both happen to be in the NFC. And one is the Philadelphia Eagles are the most dramatic example in that Carson Wentz goes down. They're the number 1 seed. I wrote them off. Just about everybody except Philadelphia wrote the Eagles off, saying that there's no way that they're going to win their first game in the playoffs, and they just won a Super Bowl with their backup quarterback, Nick Foles. Now, there's a lot of other variables in that. They have an amazing defense. We do not. They also, but their weapons on offense, I would say that the Packers have better weapons on offense. It's just that Nick Foles was able to get it done. He was able to lead a team to victory, not only throughout the playoffs, but also in the Super Bowl. And we don't have that kind of guy. So you bring in a guy like Nick Foles, maybe that will work out. But again, I think he's going to cost a lot of money now because he has a Super Bowl championship ring. And the other team I'm going to allude to, and it's gross. And I know that he recently escaped. Tom Grossi. Yep, I watched back that tape. But the Vikings, I mean, look at them too. Teddy Bridgewater, right? He goes down. They get Sam Bradford. He's able to lead them to some wins. Sam Bradford goes down. Then you got Case Keenum who's able to lead them to wins. Case Keenum leads them to the NFC Championship game. And so, again, they have an amazing defense that is built around. They have a good supporting team that the Packers don't have. But that still is evident that we need a backup quarterback. So you bring in a veteran, some guy that at least can just win us the game, or at the bare minimum, doesn't lose us the game. That's the kind of quarterback I think we need. I think it's too early to start looking for Rodgers' eventual replacement because everyone knows Aaron Rodgers is going to play until he's 75 years old, and you can't tell me any different. And so, I mean, maybe in a couple years, you start looking at the draft of picking somebody up and, grooming them, kind of what Favre did or didn't do for Aaron Rodgers, and just hope that you luck out. But the amount of time and effort that was spent on Brett Hundley and the hype that was behind him really wasn't worth it. And so that's with number 8. We need a backup quarterback. Number 7, wide receiver. Now, this is a hot button issue, and I've gotten into some arguments with you in the comments, with other Packers fans. And so this is why it's at number 7, because I don't feel like the wide receiver position is 100% necessary. It isn't in dire need right now. But you talk about the 3 main guys being Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, and Devontae Adams. Devontae's not going anywhere. We just signed him to a big contract. He's going to be our future star, right? Jordy Nelson, 32 years old, last season said at most he has 4 more seasons, and that included last season, which means that maximum, Jordy Nelson's playing 3 more years in this league, and he is gone. That is going to hurt us tremendously. Jordy Nelson obviously didn't show up last season because Aaron Rodgers got injured, but you cannot doubt the connection that Aaron Rodgers has with Jordy Nelson, and he is a sideline threat. He's a deep threat. And so Jordy Nelson, he's 32, guys, and I mean, he's coming off, some serious injuries, in that we need to eventually pick his replacement. And then you have Randall Cobb, 27 years old, but he really has not been performing well for the past few seasons. He's explosive, he's dynamic, but we just haven't seen a whole lot of that. He also disappeared when Aaron Rodgers was gone. But you take a look at just the salary cap that's going to be hit. Jordy Nelson's $10.25 million. And then Randall Cobb is $9.5 million. There's no way that we can keep all 3. And I made an entire episode about this last season, and I got a lot of crap for it, but the money is a problem in that's a really hard pill to swallow, that you're going to be paying 3 wide receivers almost $30 million. That's a really tough pill. And so because of that, either there's going to need to be some restructuring of deals. I don't know if Jordy Nelson's going to do that because he's not going to be playing for much longer. Randall Cobb, are you just going to release him out into the wild? He is young, but again, he hasn't really shown the ability to live up to restructuring a contract. It's a challenge, but I don't think one of these guys is going to be here next season unless they're allowed to or they're able to restructure their contracts. But you look at who's behind them. You have Jeff Janis, who can't run routes. Since 2014, he's got 17 catches for 200 yards and a touchdown. You got Geronimo Allison, who I think is a solid number 3 after one of these guys go, because in 2016, he was 12 for 202 for 2 touchdowns. And then last season, he was 23 for 253. The guy has speed. The guy can run routes pretty decently. So I think Geronimo Allison is definitely going to be the next guy up when one of these guys go. Trevor Davis, he's the speedster since 2016, 8 for 94 with 1 touchdown. Obviously, that's not impressive stats, but you also have to remember that these guys haven't had a need to play. Obviously, when Jordy Nelson was injured, there was a need for them to step up, but there really wasn't a need anymore for the past couple seasons. You take a look at Ty Montgomery, he's the big question. I think you move him back to wide receiver. I think that is just the guy's a good wide receiver. You could put him in the slot. I think he's your new Randall Cobb for a lot cheaper. He's a little bit bulkier because now that you have Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, who showed last season they're more than capable of kind of leading that running back field. I think that Ty Montgomery can definitely fill in Randall Cobb's shoes, but you still need speed and you need a deep threat because we're eventually going to need to replace Jordy Nelson, and so that's why the wide receivers are at number 7. Number 6, the offensive line. Now, this isn't a dramatic need. The reason that they're above or they're below wide receiver, the reason they're number 6, is because there's one position in particular, and that's right guard, that we are struggling with. And also, I think we just need some depth. Because if you take a look at the O-line right now, David Bakhtiari, who's the best left tackle in football, he's constantly ranked number 1. I can't believe we got him in the 4th round. So for all of you who are really upset at Ted Thompson, you really need to thank him for that pick. Lane Taylor, he just got re-signed last year through 2020. He's fine as a left guard. Corey Linsley, he's solid as center. And then Brian Bulaga obviously tore his ACL, but when he's playing, he's awesome. He just has a history of some injury problems. Obviously, we're still kind of feeling the impacts of Josh Sitton and TJ Lang. I don't think they're coming back, but that is what it is. But right guard, right now, we have Jari Evans, who was amazing for New Orleans, but the guy's at the end of his career. You had Don Barclay there, who was originally supposed to be the starter, but the guy was so bad, he wound up getting released. I actually had to look this up. I didn't even know he got released, but Don Barclay is on the Detroit Lions now, so have fun with that. So we really have a problem at right guard. We need a young guy there, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers go to the draft, because it's not 100% necessary, but when you're protecting one of the, if not the best quarterbacks in football, you kind of need to make sure that those guys are going to be dependable. Jari Evans isn't going to be there forever, so we definitely are going to need to pick up a right guard. Boom. Number 5, the last offensive player that we need, and that is, this should not be a surprise in any way, shape, or form, and that is tight end. Good God, we need a good tight end. And I see your comments. I see them. We should sign Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham. Tom, what about Jimmy Graham? Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham. Okay, here's what I'm going to say about Jimmy Graham for the last time. I think he's 31 this year. Didn't perform amazingly. It started picking up a little bit with Seattle. Only if you can get this guy for like super duper cheap do I agree with picking up Jimmy Graham. I think he's I think he's a major product of Drew Brees and that system in which he was constantly putting up those huge numbers. He obviously didn't do that in Seattle, and I don't see the Packers spending that much money on him. If you could get bargain bin prices, great, wonderful, go for it. But I don't see us picking up Jimmy Graham. I'm sorry, I could be wrong, but unless this guy's going to go for super cheap, which I don't think he is, I don't see it happening. Maybe, like I said before, maybe like a Tyler Eifert, which I mentioned in the free agent video. But let's look at who we have currently for our tight ends. Lance Kendricks, who is 30 years old. Last season went 18 for 203 with 1 touchdown. Really nothing impressive there. Again, didn't have Aaron Rodgers, but the guy's not a speedster in any way, shape, or form. Richard Rodgers. Good God, Richard Rodgers. Okay, the guy can block very well. Yes. He will always be remembered for the Hail Mary in Detroit. Yes. But since 2014, the guy has only caught 120 passes for 1,166 yards and 13 touchdowns, 8 of which came in 2015. The last 2 seasons, the guy has had 3 touchdowns, 42 receptions, and 431 yards. That is not an explosive playmaker in any way, shape, or form. He's caught 66% of his passes throughout his career, and he's not getting that much. He caught 12 passes last season. 12! He's not that good. And again, he's great for blocking, but if you're talking about like a weapon, a downfield weapon, a speedster, he does not fit that bill. We've never replaced Jermichael Finley because they built that offense around him, and then he's sustained a career-ending injury, and we've never recovered. We never got one of those guys back. Now, before you say, Tim, what about Jared Cook? I feel like with Jared Cook, the one thing we remember him for is obviously the catch in the divisional game against the Cowboys, which was amazing. One of the greatest catches I've ever seen. Love it. Wonderful. Thank you, Jared. But I feel like we kind of have rose-colored glasses on, and we're looking back at this and going, oh, he was an amazing tight end for us. Just to kind of take a look. Guy's 30 years old. The guy is like over 30 years old. He caught, during his tenure, the 1 year he was with the Packers, only caught 30 balls, 377 yards, 1 touchdown. I mean, like, those aren't like super great numbers. I mean, he dropped a lot of balls. I just don't. He had that amazing play, and he wasn't bad, but he wasn't this. He is obviously doing much better in Oakland. Whether that's because of their scheme, that's because they don't have any targets to throw to because Amari Cooper forgot how to play football. I don't know, but if we are going to get a tight end, I think the only way that we need to do it is through the draft. We need to pick a guy that we can rely on, and he's going to be a solid offensive weapon. I don't think he's worth a first-round pick, but we do need a tight end to kind of help us out, and it'll also just give us more weapons. Because again, once you get Ty Montgomery into the wide receiver spot, you have a plethora of guys you could throw the ball to, and just giving Aaron Rodgers some more options. So that's why they're at number 5. Number 4. This is linebacker. Now, if you want me to make the distinction between outside linebacker and inside linebacker, I'll just say both, which is why I just combined it into linebacker. Let's get this out of the way now. Clay Matthews. Okay, our outside/inside linebacker. This year is scheduled to make $11.4 million, which is, holy crap, a lot of money. Last season, he played much better. He played at 14 out of 16 games, which, as we all know, he is very injury prone. He's constantly having those nagging issues. He's turning 32 in May, so that's going to be a problem. He also had 7.5 sacks last year, and he's a free agent next year in 2019. So here's the thing. There's a couple things the Packers can do here. One, they can kind of just let him play it out, but $11.4 million is a lot. 2, they can just release him, and so that money doesn't really go anywhere. It's not dead money and you just have a nice day. Or they could restructure his contract. I would like to restructure his contract. I mean, I think that's the best option because we just don't have the talent there to replace him right now. Because, for example, you have Nick Perry, who we re-signed because we have a lot of faith in him, and the guy plays well, and I'm like, he's not amazing, but he plays well. And so that being said, you need another guy in there to kind of help out. Because you look at our inside linebackers, right? Jake Ryan, who looks like he is high off of Cocoa Crisps, like Cocoa Puffs, whatever. Like his hair, he's just like yells whenever he's, oh shit, that's me. He's kind of like, he's like very excited whenever he introduces his name. Last season, he had 81 combined tackles and 1 sack. Again, I know he's inside. He's more of a run stuffer, but really not impressive. Blake Martinez. Oh, I love you, Blake Martinez. 144 combined, 1 sack, 1 pick. I love you. He like led the team. I think he led the league in tackles. Blake Martinez, yes, answer to all of our problems. But Clay Matthews, Jake Ryan, and also, what's his face? Nick Perry. I'm not feeling 100% confident in that, and I think Clay Matthews is not going to be on this team potentially next year. So, and again, he's 32, so I don't know how much longer he's going to play. So we definitely need help because otherwise we got Joe Thomas, who he sucks, and then Vince Beagle, maybe. He started playing at the end of last season. We obviously drafted him last season, so maybe he'll be the answer, but we'll kind of see how he progresses this year. But we definitely need some linebacker help just to kind of rush the passer a little bit more and also somebody who knows how to play coverage. So, number 3, speaking of rushing the passer, we need a defensive end. We need an edge rusher because Dean Lowry, guys, not really cutting it. Since 2016, 40 combined tackles and 4 sacks. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Listen, when we talk about like nose tackles and defensive tackles, love Kenny Clark. He's been a great addition to the team. Mike Daniels is obviously a monster, multiple sacks. The guy is great. But we have 0 pass rush. These guys, you have our defensive tackles, our nose tackles occasionally getting to the quarterback, but we have never had one of those dominant edge rushers. And so that being said, that's something I think you go to free agency for because while there is definitely some talent in the draft, I think it's a little more linebacker, defensive back heavy. And so I wouldn't mind going to get like a veteran guy who you know is going to make an immediate difference, or you switch that and you get somebody from the free agency in the backfield and then you solve the edge problem during the draft. But yeah, I think it's just because nobody's afraid of our defense right now. Nobody's afraid of our defensive line. We start off really good in knowing how to stop the run, but then again, they just start throwing the ball and quarterbacks have all day to throw it. And so you can't rely on Mike Daniels to make a sack every time. So we need an edge rusher. We need somebody to get to the ball carrier. Number 2, safety. This is where we're going to start getting into our backfield. Oh boy, this is going to hurt a lot. Morgan Burnett. I've talked about him multiple times on the show. He said that it would be a shame if the Packers let him go. I think they might let him go and let him try free agency. I think that's going to be a big mistake if that happens. His backup is Josh Jones, and I love the way Josh Jones is playing. The guy hits really, really hard. He definitely has a promising future, but we really need depth at that position because our free safety, we obviously have Clinton Dix, who had 3 picks last year, but then we got Jermaine Whitehead. So I think if Morgan Burnett goes, Josh Jones is going to need help. Clinton Dix can't do everything. And so we definitely need someone to put back there, whether that is somebody from free agency, which I wouldn't be surprised we go and get, or we get somebody from the draft early on. We definitely need help in the safety position. This kind of shifts a little bit if we re-sign Burnett, which I hope we do, but I'm not going to be 100% hopeful here. So we really need some safety help, especially if we let him walk. And number 1, which I think every single Packers fan will agree with me, or not, maybe we could be completely off. Good God, we need some cornerbacks. Because, oh boy, we got Devon House. Last season had 1 interception and 44 tackles. Josh Hawkins, 0 interceptions, 38 combined tackles. Josh Hawkins, you ain't a ball hawk, Ins. I'm sorry, that was a terrible joke, but he's also a terrible cornerback. And so, again, not doing any help there. We also got Lensley Pipkins, who had 15 tackles. Yeah, that doesn't give me any confidence. Quentin Rollins suffers with injury problems, has made a few big plays. I don't have a ton of confidence in this guy. And then, of course, there's Demarius Randall. Demarius Randall is like the epitome of a hot, cold player. There are times where he is benched, then there are times where he's playing amazing. In 3 years, he has 10 interceptions, which is not terrible, 144 tackles, but I think we can count the amount of times where he has just blown plays. All of these guys have. I think Devon House right now, sitting there as like our number one cornerback, that's a problem. That's a really big problem. A guy that we let go, brought back from Jacksonville. We need a lot of help there. And so this is where I think we're definitely going to be drafting a bunch of cornerbacks because we need to. I would also love to bring in some free agent guys. Again, just make sure and sturdy up that backfield. Make them actually afraid. I will never forget Cam Newton go, "Oh, you've been watching tape, huh? Uh-huh," and then just throwing a touchdown pass to Christian McCaffrey because no one's afraid of our defense in any way, shape, or form. If we had a semi-competent defense, we are in at least 2 other Super Bowls. That's just the way it is because we go with the Seahawks game. We're definitely in the Super Bowl if we're able to, catch an onside kick or, stop a 2-point conversion or stop Doug Baldwin for catching a really long pass or stopping a fake field goal for a touchdown. Any one of those. That's a Super Bowl right there. Could have beat the Giants in 2007. That would have been really nice too. Any one of these teams, these times we could have gone to the Super Bowl, but we don't have a competent defense to do so. So that being said, Brian, GM, my man, we need you, buddy. I'm hoping we're a little bit more aggressive here in the free agency this year because these are the positions we need, and if we don't get them, I think it's going to be more of the same. But again, with Mike Pettine there instead of Dom Capers, I think that's definitely going to be a change. He's going to highlight our strengths and hopefully just, kind of cover our weaknesses and getting better players to fill those positions. But let me know what you think. Do you completely agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you agree with the order or disagree with the order? Let me know. I'll be happy to converse with you down below. You could always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com, TomGrossi Comedy, or Tom Grossi Comedy on the Twitter and the Instagram, also on the Facebook. Check out the Patreon, please, patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy. We have some awesome rewards for you, whether it's t-shirts or whether it's game day chats, what have you. Check that out. Also, you can find Packcast, P-A-C-K-A-S-T, which is his podcast. We're on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, and of course here on the YouTubes. So please subscribe, like, do all that wonderful stuff, or not. I'm not your dad. But thank you so much for watching. I'll be back next week and we'll break down another video. But I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.